On Sunday night in the lovely Toronto neighborhood of the Danforth, lots of shops and restaurants and bars, lazy summer evening, a terrorist calmly walked down the street shooting everyone he could. He murdered a 10-year-old girl and an 18-year-old woman. That's a lot of shooting and a lot of hitting his targets. It went on for a very, very long time. He walked almost a quarter of a mile at a leisurely pace before he was finally stopped by police. Here's a quick video of the terrorist captured on someone's cell phone. He's on the sidewalk on the left. Take a look.
Was it from that car?
Calm, cool, collected, not the style of a madman, the style of a trained killer, an assassin. I've read reports from firearms experts commenting on the style in which the terrorist held and fired his weapon, not in the manner of street gangs, but in the manner of law enforcement or military. I've read reports from eyewitnesses who say he was completely cool throughout. Were it not for the fact that he was shooting people, he'd be unremarkable in his demeanor. We don't yet have the minute-by-minute TikTok-style report, but clearly he obviously reloaded his weapon. He was prepared. He was trained. As I mentioned, he was stopped and killed by police, but it took a while. But then they fairly quickly identified the killer. Police said he was known to police, and his age, 29, was immediately published. But authorities declined to publish his name too. Why? He's not a minor child. He has no privacy rights. He's dead in any event. But for some reason, authorities did not name him for a full day. That's odd, don't you think? And so for the next 24 hours, the discussion was somewhat unmoored. Toronto's feckless mayor, John Tory, really didn't have much to say. He never does. Under his watch, the murder rate has doubled. The murder rate in Toronto is now higher than the murder rate in New York City. Can you even imagine saying those words? But he's like Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, who brushes off all the murders and stabbings, and they've got acid attacks over there too, and of course, terrorism there too. Sadiq Khan says it's just part and parcel of life in a big city, you know? Well, it's not true. It doesn't happen in Tokyo, does it? And not even in New York as bad as Toronto. But then yesterday, in a move that can only be described as choreography, the police released the name of the terrorist, Faisal Hussain, a Muslim man, obviously. And immediately, simultaneously, a Muslim reporter at the CBC, Shanifa Nasser, with an Islamic studies degree, she published an unsigned letter purportedly from the terrorist family. But of course it wasn't written by them older Muslim migrants. Not this language. This was written by some professional PR person, maybe a journalist, maybe a political staffer, who knows, maybe Shanifa of the CBC herself. But it was remarkable how perfect the timing was. They obviously had it prepared and ready. So the moment the terrorist was named with his Muslim name, instantly the counter-narrative was grafted onto it. The message from the family being, no, nothing to do with Islam. They don't even use the word. It's just mental illness that he had struggled with his entire life, as if people with mental illness go out and just naturally shoot people. Now, it could be that this was some psychotic episode, but we don't have that from the family directly. We have it from some unsigned document served up by the state broadcaster, and they won't discuss the provenance of that document. Who wrote it? When did they get it? From whom did they get it? Why did they wait to release it with such perfect timing? Is there any corroboration for the facts in it? Was Faisal Hussain, in fact, struggling with mental issues, or did they just make that up? And even if he was struggling about mental issues, what about the reports that he was known to police? That's what police said. And that CSIS was involved. CSIS doesn't get involved if you're just depressed. Joe Warmington, the reporter for the Toronto Sun, says law enforcement sources say Hussain had made trips to Afghanistan and Pakistan, and that he consumed ISIS propaganda online. No, forget all that. He's mentally ill, people. Just leave it at that. Actually, the CBC didn't even leave it at that. They went from being 100% championing the murder victims, Toronto strong, to 100% championing the terrorist. It was like they just flipped, just switched sides. Look at this. This is another report from Shanifa Nasser of the CBC. Let me quote. He had a $1 million smile. She's talking about the terrorist here, not his victims. The CBC is talking about how wonderful a person the terrorist was. Here's another CBC propaganda piece. The terrorist was polite, humble. They're really doing this. They're really whitewashing the murderer. The murder victims aren't even buried yet. The CBC has switched sides. Now, the Toronto Star put their investigative reporter on the case. Okay, good. They've got some good investigative reporters over there at the Toronto Star, whatever else you think of them. Look at the headline. What drove Toronto shooting suspect to unleash violence on the Danforth? That is a good question. Was it terrorism? If so, was it homegrown terrorism? Did he practice being a terrorist overseas? How did he get that gun? That's a restricted handgun. It's not like getting a hunting rifle or shotgun. Did he have what's called an RPAL, as a restricted possession and acquisition license? To get one of those, you need to do a deep background check. They call your family. I mean, someone who has a lifetime of mental illness, you're not going to get a handgun. That anonymous memo about lifetime psychotic depression, you're not going to get a gun. So how did he get the gun? Where did he get the training? He was obviously trained. Joe Warmington's article in The Sun said Hussain regularly met up near his house with up to 20 friends. Now that's fine. Were they just friends though? Or are they a group of people planning and plotting things together? Was this a lone wolf or part of a team, a pack? So what did the investigative reporter for the Toronto Star say? Well, let me quote. Hussain also shared a characteristic in common with many mass murderers, one that has received particular attention in the wake of a string of explicitly misogynistic attacks. He was male. Sorry, that's your deep investigation. That's why he did it. He was male. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with Islam, people. He's just a toxic man. Let me quote some more. So, for example, if a man is passed over for a job, say, and the job is given to a woman, he may feel like that woman stole his job, but it was never actually even his to begin with. My God, did that just happen? Is that what happened to Faisal Hussain? Did some woman steal his job, is that why he killed 2 women? No, that was just some hypothetical situation that the Toronto Star published, something that explicitly did not happen, because they actually don't want to talk about what did happen. They want to talk about something else that didn't happen, that they can explain away that other thing without criticizing Islam or open border immigration or terrorism or unworkable multiculturalism. They literally had their investigative reporter call up some professors to get them to do some feminist rant about some hypothetical killer instead of investigating the actual killer. The words Islam and Muslim and terrorist appear nowhere in that Toronto Star story. Instead, they actually wrote this: the way society tells boys from a young age they need to be in control, to be the hero and never back down. That's what they're blaming here. Is that what happened? And that's the Toronto Star. That's the biggest newspaper in the country in terms of readership. But I've been asking some questions on Twitter. I've been thinking about it, talking to folks, and I've just been thinking out loud. And then this reporter from the Toronto Star, Jennifer Pagliaro, told me to delete my questions. Ezra, this kind of fear-mongering is unacceptable. It is disgusting. It won't be tolerated. You should delete it immediately and apologize. Holy cow. Now, I was asking about the CBC's curious timing to release the pre-written anonymous statement saying, oh, nothing to see here, at the precise moment the murderer's name was revealed. I asked questions like, who wrote that memo? Is it real? Just basic factual questions for which there are basic answers. I mean, there might be perfectly innocuous answers, or there might be concerning answers, but all of that is wrongthink, according to the Star. And it's not enough that I be criticized. I must delete those bad thoughts. And look at the words again. Look at this again. Disgusting, unacceptable, intolerable, fear-mongering. No, it's just journalism. But what's odd is the mainstream media is full of rage. Those are rageful words. Rage towards me. Not rage towards the terrorist. They were calling the terrorist a humble, polite man with $1 million smile. They were calling me names full of rage for asking questions and telling me to censor myself. A fellow journalist from a rival publication telling me to stop asking questions? Yeah, no, we're still a little bit free in Canada, at least a little bit. I want to know how that guy got a gun. I want to know where he got his executioner style training. I want to know what his relationship with the police and CSIS was. I want to know if he did indeed go to Afghanistan and Pakistan and what he did there and who he met there. I want to know what his parents really knew. I want to know what professional spin doctor grafted themselves onto the family to issue that spin statement. I want to know who else was in on that, whether it was the CBC or a politician or even the police. I want to know what other threats we have around the country. I want to know if, in fact, Faisal Hussain was a terrorist somewhere else and we let him back in. One of those ISIS terrorists, maybe, that Justin Trudeau says have a powerful voice that we need to hear. So, no, sorry, I'm not going to be shushed by the Toronto Star or the dozens of CBC government journalists who chimed in after the Star to the same effect. Look, we're just tiny here at The Rebel, but we will ask real questions otherwise. I mean, really, what's the point? That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.